Hello everyone, it's Mike Levin, Monday, February 15th, around 8 a.m. and I was at the New York Aquarium in Brooklyn with Addie this weekend, and she got this journal and she passed over things such as stuffed animals and the little plastic floaty toys for this, and her first entry she made with this pen. This is my dad's monogrammed pen, one of the few possessions. By the way, here's the doorknob that was put in. I believe that's the key to lock it, working as advertised. Certainly better than the last one. So, yeah, this is one of my few possessions from my dad that I still have on me on a fairly regular basis. When I was working in the Empire State Building, I got quite a kick out of using his pen in the same building where my dad worked many years ago. I don't know, it must have been 35 years ago. And I was carrying it on me lately because like the way I showed the Radio Shack magnets in the other video, I figured in this one I would show that pen, and I would make my videos, instead of being about just anything, I'd use some sort of symbolic thing. I've always been a big fan of, keeping things around you which symbolize stuff. And so that is the one that I sort of had on deck. And when that trip to the aquarium happened this weekend, and Addie asked for a pen for her new journal, which was a proud choice in my mind as a dad. That's definitely a stage of growing up. And I realized that was the pen I had on me. Whoosh! What a head job it is to have a daughter who your father never had the opportunity to meet, knowingly use his pen to make her first writing journal. And she did have to ask me how to spell out things, but she kept track of each of the places that we went. Something called the Brooklyn Zoo, which is really not a zoo at all, but we took a parkour parent-child course. And it was kind of awesome. Addie always has considered herself a circus kid, if you will. And I think she was missing it a bit. She used to take some circus classes in Brooklyn. So on Rachel's suggestion, we signed up for a parent-child parkour class, and did all that running and jumping back and forth between things and swinging on ropes, and it was fun. Addie, of course, was more interested in the stuff they had around to play on in the unstructured time sense. And we actually went calling around to the other places because they had a birthday party after our time was over. So I went calling around to the other places, and it turns out that all these places after, about 11:30 a.m. or noon, all switched to birthday parties. And if you didn't reserve time or whatever, you're not going to get into it. At least not in Brooklyn, and I wasn't ready to drive all around Creation, so I plotted out the route to where we wanted to eventually had to get back to, in Staten Island, and realized that the aquarium was on the way, and I hadn't been there since Sandy, and it was time for us to visit it and see it underway. Actually, we probably have been there since Sandy, but it was on the way, and it was an easy stop, and it was a mostly indoor thing we could do. And so the aquarium really only had a couple of buildings, the two attached buildings near the entrance, open. The rest was outside, but we went outside in that crazy sleet weather. Yesterday I had the experience of explaining the difference. Well, she already had it explained. This is all reinforcing now, but between sleet and hail. And she remembered hailstorms that we had at the Catskills. That was really cool. But it was a sleeting day, and she had a wonderful time at the aquarium. I'll go down the middle way. She loves doing this. Every time we come down the steps, she makes sure we take these big giant steps at the bottom of the 215 steps. Something that's definitely going to be strong imagery from her past. I'll have to make sure we get back here. This will be just as good, I think, as visiting the apartment itself, which she's expressed interest in. Of course, you got to say there's always the possibility, but I think it's the neighborhood itself and, the symbols 215 stairs, Isham Park, that are really going to resonate strongly over the years. You know, one apartment is really no different than the others, except of course for the layout, and those mappings, I guess, do really matter. But Addie has had so many mappings. Her map, her mental map, is many houses, from her grandparents to the place in the Catskills, and you know, we've made sure that she was more about New York City than she was about one particular residence, which I think is an important thing when raising a kid in New York City, unless you buy and own and intend to stay in that one place for most of your life, which was the plan. But even so, it just made sense to spread around that physical mental mapping. And for people who don't know what I'm talking about, places have a lot of correlations in the brains, you know, to memories and patterns. That's why in the ancient Roman days, when the senators were practicing their speeches for the Senate, they would do it in different rooms, and they'd say in the first place, in the second place, because they practice they practice a part of their speech in each of those different locations. And then they imagined the different locations in their head as they gave the speech and said out loud in the first place and the second place. And that's where that, you know, is rumored to have come from. And there's a lot of different memory mapping techniques that are around, the Sylvan memory method, that are kind of like that. So, yeah, Addie was writing in her journal. It's not her first one, but it's her first one that she's actually seems to be using as a journal with real writing, keeping track of the places where she was at yesterday, like the Brooklyn Zoo parkour class, the New York Aquarium. We saw the Batman Lego movie, which, wow, that could be in a video all in itself. As a hardcore long-term Batman fan who went through my phase of, oh, only the Dark Knight is the real Batman, and then came around and started to enjoy the campy Batman again, I really enjoyed the Lego movie, you know, completely embracing that Lego interpretation of Batman that they had in the original Lego movie. Great stuff, great for adults, great for kids, something everyone can enjoy. And so yeah, after that, Chuck E. Cheese, she made all those entries. I'm holding on to the journal with her, and that'll be one of the regular things we do. And I gotta say, you know, as much as anything, that is the beginning of the coding with her, because I can't make the point enough that reading and writing is coding. Encoding when you write and decoding when you read. And everything else follows that. Literacy comes first. There's so much temptation to jump into that Scratch and Blockly stuff, and maybe even typing Python directly into a terminal or IDE. But really, this is a good beginning, and I'm really happy. So anyway, thanks for joining me. Hope to talk to you again soon, and don't forget to subscribe.